Hi, I'm Allison. You know, people watch this. If you're in Friday Harbor or if you come visit, come join us. We actually have cookies. You know, homemade is in this.
Oh, they're good.
I can't guarantee they'll be homemade, but we usually have cookies. Anyway, I just have a brief message. This is the week. If you care about state funding and things like education, or maybe you want to make sure people's pensions are funded, or, you know, make sure that people are taken care of in their homes when they're elderly, you know, things like that. It's all up for grabs. It's coming up this week, this coming week. They're having a special session in Olympia. That's kind of a long story. I won't get into it. You can read about it. Anyway, if you care about anything that the state is paying for, your money, then you better talk to your legislators.
Okay, if you're like most Americans, you've spent a good bit of the last 30 years struggling to keep your head above water, earn a living for your family, put a roof over their head and food in their mouths. You might also have wondered during that period, you know, why are you working your tail off so hard and having a hard time getting ahead? You know, supposedly if you work hard, save your money, you realize the American dream, and then retire in comfort. Well, that may have been true, that got more and more true over the previous 2 or 3 generations, but in the current one, it has been less so. And I'm here to be Dr. Number Cruncher and give you a little explanation of why you might feel like that. And if you look at the top half of this graph here, what you will see is a graph of gross domestic product, or GDP, which is how much money the country as a whole makes over a year. And this is the growth in gross domestic product since 1945. That's the light line here. The dark line is the growth in median family income. Now, median doesn't mean average. It means that half the people are above that and half the people are below it. That's a measure of how the society as a whole is doing. You'll notice up until, about 1980, I wonder who was president then, that the median family income almost identically tracks the growth in gross domestic product. But long about 1980, when policies began to change relative to progressive income tax and a few other things, the median family income didn't do as well as GDP. Well, somebody's making all this money, and it's not going to these people. If you look down at the bottom half of this graph, you'll see how median family income would have grown, that's the blue line here, had it actually tracked growth in GDP. Okay, but no, this is what it actually is right now. It's in the low 60s, median family income. And if it had tracked GDP, it would be around $90,000. That's a big difference in median family income. So clearly, the money that should have gone here isn't going to families. Okay, where is it going? Well, let's look at another graph. Here we have that average household income, which is admittedly not median, but it gives you an idea where that money is going. This line here that seems to be going up since 1979, which you'll remember is about when GDP and median family income began not to grow at the same rate. This is doing great, but this is the top 1% of income earners. That's their income has grown at a spectacular rate. Okay, this yellow line is the top 20%, not nearly as good. Okay, especially since it does include the top 1%. But here's where most of us are down here. Those are the bottom 3 quintiles, the bottom 60% essentially. Their income has grown almost not at all since 1979. to break it out just a little bit further and show you where all that money that families should have gone into family median incomes. This black line here is growth of the top 1% since 1913. You'll notice in the early part of the century they're doing pretty well. Then along about the 30s, their income didn't grow so well. But again, starting in the late 70s, their income began to shoot up very high. Okay, the blue line here is the percentage between 95 and 99%. Okay, theirs grew a little better, but not nearly as high, as fast as the top 1%. And the orange line here, that's the people in the 90th to 94th percentile range, and theirs is almost as flat as those people who are down in the bottom 60%. It barely grew at all since the 1970s here, almost flat. So these people right here, the very top 1%, are the ones who are making all that money. You wonder where that difference in those two graphs were between growth of GDP and growth of median income? That's where it's going, the top 1%. And let me break that down even a little further for you. Here we have a chart that shows actual numbers. Okay, these are the numbers for 2010, which are the most current year, even though this is 2012. Especially people who may earn a lot of money don't file their incomes, their final income tax, until late in the following year, which for 2010 would have been late 2011, and then somebody has to take that and aggregate it. So this is as current information as you can get in spring of 2012. Okay, the average income for people, this is not family income, this is average personal income for people in the bottom 90% is just under $30,000 for 2010. Okay, the change in income in that group between 2009 and 2010 was a loss of $127. The bottom 99%, the average income in that group was just under $42,000. The average person made $80 more than they did the previous year. That's for the bottom 99% on average. The top 1%, well, they did a little bit better. This is the average income for people in the top 1%. The average person there made $913,451. Now that is not the line for where you get into the top 1%. That is the average income in the 1%. Okay, and on average, they made over $105,000 more than they did the previous year. Now, you tell me, going from 2009 to 2010, who's making out here? And let's break that down just a little bit further so you can see where it's going. Those people in the top 90th to 94th percentile, okay, had an average income of almost $125,000. On average, they made less than $100 a month more than they did the previous year. Those just below the 99th percentile, in other words, just below the top 1%, those from 95 to 99% had an average income of $201,000. And they made almost $4,000 more than they did the previous year. Those in the 95 to, let me take that back. Those in the 99 to 99.5 percentile, those just below the top half of 1%, made almost $400,000 on average and made $18,000 more than they did the year before. Those in the 99.5 to 99.9 percentile group made an average of almost $750,000 and almost $60,000 more than they did in 2009. And those who, in the Mitt Romney percentile, he made just a little over the average income of $19 million. On average, made $4 million more than they did the previous year. Now, I ask you, the economy over the last 30 years has been growing clearly from that graph that we showed, and incomes haven't been, except at that very top. Who's making that money, and why aren't average people making that money? That's what Occupy is all about. Elect people who care about that and will do something about it. Thanks, and have a great day.
Speak, dog of justice.